Okay, why crab cakes are always better at restaurants. We're gonna talk about how do we get this perfect sear? What's the best kind of crab to use? What's the best kind of filling to use to make a really good crab cake? We're gonna go over that today. And today I've got over my old chef, Nate. So he's made a ton of crab cakes in his time.
Tons.
And yeah, tons. And he's just gonna share like his experience with y'all today on how to make the perfect crab cake. Okay. Hollandaise. This is another egg that's going on top of the egg. Why do we make a sauce made of eggs to go on our eggs? It's kind of redundant, but it's a classic thing. It also adds a creamy texture. The reason for the water bath is we want to gently cook these because if we cook them too fast, they're gonna scramble. We're gonna get scrambled eggs. But Chef Nate's gonna show us a quicker way to get our egg yolks. So what is it? We're cracking them into one bowl.
Yeah, and then you'll pull out the yolks from this bowl.
Probably just need like what, 5, 4?
4 eggs is fine.
Four's good.
For like, you know.
It's like pound of butter, 4 eggs, probably good. Okay, so what's the method to the madness here?
You just pick up your yolk. That's it.
There we go.
Pick it up. Let the yolk, the white come out, and then you can kind of roll it down your fingers like stairs, and that'll take it out. So then you just have just your yolks.
So we want to heat up the eggs prior to adding our hot butter. It makes sense. The butter will start to cool down quicker if we add the cold egg yolks to the hot butter. And then it's not going to be a more stable emulsion and then it could break. Why do we put our butter into a metal pitcher?
I prefer to use a metal pitcher because it's metal, so it can go over. You can put your butter in this.
Yeah.
And you can melt your butter in this. And then when it's done, you can pour, when you're whisking, you can use it to pour, so it has a nice pour spout, so you're not plugging it in or anything. It's easier to whisk it with this, and it just works better than, you can't use plastic, obviously.
Yeah, and you could just put this like on an electric stove, gas stove, whatever, and heat it up.
Normally I'll just put it on like the edge so it can
right on. Okay, so that's what we're gonna put our butter in. How many yolks is the perfect amount of yolks to our butter ratio? Is it what? It's a pound for 7 yolks?
I always use a pound for 7 yolks. So if you're doing it at home and need like a small batch, I'll do like 3 or 4 yolks to half a pound of butter.
So that's 2 sticks of butter for about 3 to 4 yolks. So if you want to just do like 1 stick of butter, that'd be like 2 yolks, right? Something like that.
Yep.
So if you're gonna make this at home for say just you and your lady, or just like even just yourself, I'm not judging, whatever. Just do like your stick of butter and a couple egg yolks and you got a really nice sauce.
And so what I like to do also, most times people like to use clarified butter.
Right.
I like to use whole butter.
Why do we use whole butter instead of clarified butter? Because like you were saying, like a lot of people prefer clarified butter over whole butter. Why is that?
When you use clarified butter, you have to, and say you're adding too much fat, you have to add water to it so it won't break. I like to use whole butter and have the whey at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because instead of adding water, I'm using
the flavor.
The butter. Yeah. The whey that's coming. That actually helps thin it out. But it's also, you're not adding water from the tap.
How much water should we put into the pot?
So when you're doing your water bath, you want to have, like an inch or an inch and a half. Basically, you don't want your bowl to touch the water. If your bowl touches the water and it stays on for too long, you're gonna scramble your eggs quicker.
Because it's like putting it straight on the heat. Right?
Yeah, and when you're doing it, you want to put your bowl on there and whisk, but you also want to take it off so it's not getting too hot. Kind of cooling it down, put it back on, warm it up. You got a teaspoon of Dijon. Side towel so you don't burn your fingers.
Yep.
Metal bowl is best. You can use a glass bowl. Either one works fine.
So a metal bowl is probably better because it's conducting more heat quicker.
Quicker, yeah. The glass will stay hot longer.
Yeah.
And that's when you could end up,
which is probably fucked because I know it'll break your eggs possibly. Because if you get it to the point you want it, it's gonna retain all that heat.
Right. And see, like as it warmed up, so it got thinner because it's got warmer.
Yeah.
And then as we cook it, they're gonna thicken because you're slowly cooking the eggs. So
it's getting kind of frothy there too.
Yep. And so you do this for a couple minutes, and then you'll end up getting your the ribbon consistency is kind of what you're always looking for.
So how do we know when to add the butter to the egg?
You'll start to get a bit of a ribbon consistency. You'll see that the yolks will kind of start to thicken up. That should be fine, yeah.
All right.
So then you're just putting it in slow to get it started. And if you add too much butter too fast, that's a way of breaking it because you can't incorporate it quick enough.
Guys, it's so hard to like pour this and hold the camera at the same time.
That's why he has such big, strong arms. Make sure to tell them that like if you do leave this way, you might have to add some water to it.
Yeah.
You know,
to keep it going.
Yeah.
Like keep it thinned out.
Keep it from, yeah.
All right, guys, so we got some heart water. We got this on top. This is kind of like called charging a container, by the way. And then this just goes directly into this right here.
It really is just to be keeping it nice and warm while you're making everything else. So then you can get this out of the way, or I mean, have everything else done and make this at the end.
And then just give it a little stir every now and then if you're holding on the side.
You might need to add a little bit of water.
Yeah, if it needs more water, just add more water.
You're basically just checking it to make sure it's not breaking and it's not getting cold.
Why use canned crab meat over fresh? I mean, although this looks really good. Like these are like whole claws in there and stuff. This looks nice.
So this is good.
I mean, other than it being nice, so like why use the canned meat over the fresh? And that's probably because like, I mean, what he was just saying, like fresh of course is better, but if we're using fresh, we're gonna need more crabs to make the crab cakes.
It takes forever.
Yeah. So I mean, also even making crab cakes with fresh crab, I mean, you kind of don't even want to do that because you want to just eat that fresh crab the way it is with some butter. Yes. That's like the way you want to eat it. So it would be overkill to do that. So we use fresh crab, especially in like restaurants. We're gonna use like the fucking cans because you can get more yield. Why scallions, red peppers for the crab cakes? I mean, really, it's kind of up to you at this point for your filling.
You can put whatever you want.
Yeah,
on the crab cake.
literally, like what he said, whatever you want to each his own. Like this is the way they did it at the spots that we worked at, and this guy made them like every fucking day for who knows how long. And I think he was saying they did like ginger and scallion in there.
Yeah,
we're doing some red pepper and scallion. So, you know, really just pick your poison here.
Still has a lot of moisture and stuff in it.
So it's best to do this in a strainer?
It's best to squeeze some of that moisture out.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like...
So now, why use a strainer for our crab? Like, do we strain our crab? What's the reason for this?
So the reason to strain it is because when they're in the facility, like you can see, it's gonna be kind of full of liquid. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to squeeze some of that like water out. So
oh yeah, you can see that already.
So basically, if you leave all that liquid in there and you add it to your breadcrumbs, it's going to be more dense and gluey. But you can see just with how much we've done so far, this is only 1 pound, how much liquid comes out of it.
All of this liquid is just from that one can of crab. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yep, so that's about 2 scallions. A little bit of lemon zest. Just like a pinch. I mean, crab's already salty, so you don't need a ton. I could eat a whole month of it.
Why are we adding mayo to this, to the crab cake? Like it's already got enough fat. Why do we add more fat?
Well, mayonnaise is your binder, your flavor. You can use any kind. We're using QP.
Okay.
I mean, you can use really any kind of mayonnaise you want. When you're mixing it, you almost just kind of want to fold it.
Mm-hmm. Why do we want to fold it instead of?
So you can keep the lump. So you can keep those nice lump crab, the lump pieces, like the claw pieces and things like that. It's always nice, like I said, to when you're eating crab cakes and you have like a nice claw piece in there. You're like, oh man, nice.
Yeah.
So also, like we're putting mayonnaise in here, but we're also gonna put breadcrumbs in there. That's gonna help bind the breadcrumbs. Like it helps keep them together. Mm-hmm. Like you're adding mayonnaise, but it's helping. It's helping absorb your breadcrumbs to make it a cake.
breadcrumbs.
So to your 1 pound, let's start off with
2 cups right there.
And so, like I said, you're not really trying to mix these. You're just trying to get it all coated. I always preferred using them the second day. You can, like, we're gonna make these today, so it's just fine. They cook just fine. I always preferred them the second day.
Why do you prefer them the second day?
They seemed to be set up a little bit better. They weren't as loose. They always seared a lot nicer when we did it.
So takeaway from here is, if you can, set them up and like leave them in your fridge for a day, and they should be better the next day. But if not, they're still good.
They're still gonna be just fine.
It's delicious.
They're gonna be just as tasty. Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we start making our cakes, why do we put panko down on our landing pad?
Basically, just you don't want them to just sit. Like I like it because it will absorb some of these. Some of this panko, because then when you're going to put them in the pan, you have a little bit more of you have like a nice bread coating on the bottom of it. So then that's going to get seared in the pan first, that flat part. The flat part will be sitting in this. So
also, like when it's in the fridge, you got like a condensation situation, and it could like get all wet on the bottom, and this will help to like prevent that. Okay, this is our setup. We've got the crab mixture. He has a ladle, which is about 4 ounces. Scooping it into there, and the reason for that is it's really just so we make sure everyone kind of gets the same amount, like uniform. So I like you make the nice ball shape, right?
I like to get a ladle, and then I just like to get this flat part. And you can just throw it right in, throw it into some panko there, and then once we get a couple in there, we're gonna kind of form them.
I don't know if you see that, but he has 2 crab cakes, and he's taking the flat ends together.
So they're nice. So you have your flat ends. This is what's going to go in the pan first. But I like to put a little bit of panko on them first, and then just kind of form them gently. I'm just kind of forming them to where they want to be, making sure that's nice and flat, just like that. So it's two like spheres.
So this is a really cool method, actually, which I am just now learning. Just taking like these flat ends from the cakes, because when you scoop it, you have a flat piece, and then they just connect together.
That's why when we're scooping, we would always kind of flatten out that bottom piece. So then that's going to be the part that you're gonna use. I've made so many of these that I was like, I'll never make these again. and then when I was a chef at a restaurant that didn't have them, I made them and we sold them, and I understood. Why?
Makes money. These make money.
Just a little bit more on top, and that's it. At this point, they're ready to be seared off.
We could put these in the fridge overnight because he's saying they're going to be not as...
I like them overnight just because they're a little bit more firm, and the crab cakes themselves are sitting in that bed of panko.
Yeah.
You're able to get a little bit more of a crust on top of them.
So that's probably another reason why these are better at restaurants, because they make a shit ton. They leave them in the walk-in for the next day. They're not just making them for the same day at home.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Cooking the crab cakes. Why are we using a cast iron skillet over, say, stainless steel? Well, you could use a stainless steel, but this is gonna retain the heat better. It's gonna be like a more even heat, and also these are usually very like nice and flat, and we want a nice flat surface for this. Since it's a cake, we're doing sort of a generous amount of fat.
I like to hold my pan when I put them in, because I want to shake them a little bit, so I know that they're not sticking. When you're sauteing things, the whole point is to leave it go for a minute. A lot of times people think they should just be shaking it all the time.
Let it cook.
Once you get it in the pan, once you know that you can see they're not stuck, leave it for a minute. Let it go. You want to see some color on it like that. That's perfect even color. Then you're gonna flip them. I like to flip them and give them a little pat. Yeah. I want you to wait a little longer. There you go. And then what I like to do before I put them in the oven, I like to give them a little pat of butter. Put a little spoon of butter in there. The butter is basically obviously a little more flavor, but then it also assists in the browning of the bottom ones as well.
Now, why are we popping these into the oven?
Throwing them into the oven helps bake them. Obviously, you get them warm all the way through, crisping it up on the bottom.
Yeah. So it's basically to help like cook it all the way through without like.
I mean, it is essentially a cake, right?
Because it will keep going and it could like burn. So we want to be able to cook it through without burning it. Got it. So this right here, why do we have eggs with this technology, this mechanism in a big bucket of water? Well, if we did this right, this should be a perfect poached egg. Now, a reason why I would see this done as a restaurant is probably because if you have a lot of orders and you don't want to, I mean, honestly, a good brunch cook should be able to cook a poached egg pretty easily, but I mean, if you want, you can get a perfect one every time with this method. This was 147 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour, and then after that, you could just hold it on warm and just go.
Yeah, perfect. 120, 125.
And it's kind of cool to like crack an egg onto the plate. It's just a cool thing to do. That's basically it. The fun part getting to stay.
Well, maybe we can just do another one, but flatten it.
Ooh. That doesn't suck. Oh yeah, some Valentino on that, huh?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe some Doritos too on top.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
It was good like that.
Yeah, that fucks. That's really good.